Hello, welcome again. This is Professor Guerra Pujol from the University of Central Florida, and welcome to the Legal and Ethical Environment of Business. In my previous short video lecture, I discussed the idea of virtue ethics, of being a virtuous person, and some problems with the theory. And those problems have led philosophers and moral philosophers and thinkers to come up with alternative ways of thinking about ethics. One way is to think about the consequences of your act. To understand this, I want you to imagine a really famous thought experiment called the trolley problem. The idea is that you are a bystander and you're sitting or standing next to a lever or switch. Thing is, there's a trolley, brakes are shot, and it's going down the track. And in this experiment, my daughter has given me permission to use her Barbie dolls. In this experiment, I'm going to simplify the experiment, the thought experiment. There are two Barbies, or two workmen in the original formulation. I think it's 5 workmen in the original formulation. Here we'll have 2 Barbies right down the track. So if you don't press the lever or move the switch, the 2 Barbies are going to get, or the 2 workers or whatever, they're going to get run over and they're going to get killed by the runaway trolley. The catch with this thought experiment is that if you do press the switch, the trolley will go to a sidetrack, thus protecting the lives of our 2 Barbies. But there's a Barbie, one Barbie on that sidetrack. Or in the original formulation of the trolley problem, there's a worker tied to that sidetrack. And so the idea is, are you going to press the lever? Are you going to risk 1 life in order to save 2 lives? That's the idea of consequentialism. Notice that virtue ethics, right? What does a virtuous person do in that hypothetical moral dilemma? It's not obvious, right? It's not obvious what you do. But a consequentialist or utilitarian, again, oversimplifying, would probably press that lever, saying, you know what? I don't like the fact that there's 1 person on that sidetrack, but if I can save a greater number of lives, I'll go ahead and press the lever. That, in a nutshell, is consequentialism, or utilitarian ethics. Now, there are a lot of varieties of utilitarianism. We're not going to go into all of them since this is a business law and business ethics course, but I just want to give you the big picture. That consequentialism asks, does your action produce any harm? Or does an alternate action produce less harm? What is the lesser evil? Or formulated in a more positive fashion, what action will produce the greatest good or the greatest amount of utility, hence utilitarianism. So this is a very popular, powerful theory, but it too has some problems. One problem is, how do you measure utility, right? How do you know what the outcome of an action is going to be and what the utility of each action is going to be? In the trolley problem, the utilities are pretty simple to calculate, 2 Barbies or workmen versus 1, right? But in the real world, when you're thinking of a specific action, should you open a factory overseas? Or should you keep the factory in the United States? That kind of thing. How do you measure consequences? Are American workers, are the value, utility of American workers really greater than the moral value of the lives of foreign workers? What about the shareholders? What about their interest and those kind of things? So that's a real problem with utilitarian theory, trying to figure out what the values expected expected utilities of the outcomes are. But there's actually a deeper problem with utilitarian theory, and that is the idea that we're not just Barbies, we're not just interchangeable things. We're people, we're humans. We're endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights, to borrow that most eloquent expression of Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers. The idea is that people have rights, and that you can't sacrifice the rights of individuals. You can't measure these rights. They're inalienable. It means you can't buy or sell them or try to measure them. That's going to lead me to the next major theory of ethics, Kantian ethics or duty ethics. I'll talk about what that is in our next lecture. In the meantime, thank you for your attention, and go Knights.